This is TWiT.
There's too much to say. I feel like, Jason, we can start off this first one together because I saw that you also have this phone.
Yeah, I've got a war story,
presence.
though, but I want to hear yours first.
Did you say you have a war story?
Yes, with this phone, but I'll get to that in a second. I want to hear your take on it.
Okay. Let's see if I can offer you a segue. So the first phone that we're talking about, and what I'm going to do first is actually clear the notifications on here because I don't need you all to see what is happening in my life.
Fair.
The OnePlus 10 Pro is what we're talking about first. And when I got this phone in hand, I was looking at so I told you all that I've been using the OnePlus 9 for the last year, and I really like the size. I like how thin it is. I like that it was just kind of a plain Android phone. I have not been on board with the Samsung and Pixel look of this generation. Just for me personally, the phones feel a little bigger than what I want to wield. And so I was like, oh, the OnePlus 10 Pro, like this is it. Let's see what they got here. And they almost got it, but there's still a couple things that they really need to improve about it. First things first, it doesn't come in a lot of options like the last couple of OnePlus family of phones, which is really frustrating because the one thing that I really loved about the OnePlus 9 that I still love about it is it has 12 gigs of RAM. Mm-hmm. You may not think that that's like super important, but when you have a phone that's getting old, like just having that extra RAM really helps. It's like how you would put an extra stick inside your computer to just kind of give it a little more runway to figure out what it's doing with, its processing. So I'm really bummed about that. I'm also bummed that they have a limited storage offering for this, only 128 gigs, which is the minimum in 2022.
Yeah, I agree.
Because although we have all these cloud storage, situations, the pictures we take are bigger. A lot of us are downloading video onto our phones now, like gigabytes to watch, on the go, or just to like have these high-res videos of our children on our phones. And so it just feels like OnePlus said, oh, this is the flagship phone we're going to put in the US, but we're feeling kind of shy about it, so we're not going to go full torque. And I'm really bummed about that because why did they decide not to do it this round, but they've been doing the last couple of generations?
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? It really has seemed like OnePlus has leaned into its Pro to be like, here's a Pro competitor with a lot of the premium flagships. And you're right. On this one, it kind of steps down in some surprising areas. I totally agree.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I mean, there are good things about it. So it has a really long battery life. This was actually the longest of all the new phones I tested that had 5,000 milliamp battery in it. And that includes, by the way, the Galaxy S22 Ultra. So something to keep in mind there. I think it might have to do with the slightly smaller screen and, other little details here and there, but good battery life. Still has that alert slider. That's like my favorite thing that exists on OnePlus. And I am so happy that they took that from the iPhone and kept it. Mm-hmm. It's so nice. On the back, we've got 3 lenses plus this fourth circle, which a lot of people thought that fourth circle was going to be a fourth camera. What it actually is just an expertly placed flash. It's a bright flash.
It's a pretty flash.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Again, I know I say it every time, but if anybody has that fear of holes, this phone is not for you.
Tryptophobia, I believe, is what that was called. Right?
Yeah, not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to scare you.
I mean, to be fair, Samsung has the same amount on the.
I know
Ultra,
all they all do is like, honestly, it's like I feel for anybody who has that because walking into a carrier store has got to be a nightmare. Oh my god.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
I will say I liked the cameras. A lot of people didn't like them, but the way I felt about it is that, oh God, this is so much better than what they did with the 9 and the 8. Oh, finally, they have figured out their camera algorithm. That's kind of how I looked at it. But you could definitely see the limitations between a OnePlus 10 Pro and a Pixel and a Samsung sensor. Pixel and Samsung do a lot more AI in the background than, I shouldn't say they do a lot more. They are tuned differently than the OnePlus algorithm is. So when you're comparing shots, you'll see like, oh, Google Pixel is more focused on having a clear photo versus Samsung, which is more focused on having a sharp photo, let's say, like in low light. So it's just kind of interesting to see the differences there. But I was happy to see that they finally let you keep that shutter open to get a decent night shot.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Other than that, I think, the software's fine. It's okay.
It's fine. I'm not a fan of shelf, which I guess I can show you.
Turn it off. Turn it off. Everything else is fine. I like that you can add your own icons. I'm like a big one about that. I don't really like to deal with third-party launchers, even though I write about them, just because for me, I want the experience the phone wants to give me. So I'm okay with Oxygen OS 12.1.
There we go. I've turned it off now. The main reason I don't like it, sure, there might be usable features in there that you just saw, but when I'm going up to my notifications, half the time I'd end up pulling down the shelf. And I'm like, nope, that's not what I ever want on an Android phone. I always want my notifications when I swipe down from the top.
I think they tuned it to be more aggressive in Oxygen OS 12 than they did in the last version, so I guess Oxygen OS 11, because I still have 11 on the 9, and I'm still using the shelf there, but I don't accidentally pull it down the way that I was on the OnePlus 10 Pro, so to keep in mind. But overall, I was just going to say this is my conclusion on this, is that I'm not switching to this phone as my daily driver.
Sticking with the OnePlus 9 Pro.
Yeah, the big problem
I do like the decision factor going on with you, Flo. Is like, and ultimately, I am not switching this as my daily driver.
Yes.
It's a judgment call that's made at the end of the review, and I like it.
Yeah,
I'm here for it, Flo. So
yeah. It doesn't have Wave, which I really need on Verizon because you pay to have that ability on Verizon, and I am paying the highest tier. Don't send me messages right now about what I could be paying for. We've been talking about this for years. Anyway, I need a phone that gets me the service that I'm paying for. Otherwise, I'm wasting my money. So
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, you want to hear my war story?
Yes, go.
Okay.
Yeah.
My war story is I got this phone 2 weeks ago, and I can't really add to your review because I got a device, and I used a cable to transfer my data from my Pixel 6 Pro over to this the device, the OnePlus 10 Pro, and once I finally got it all set up, it would power off and reboot randomly, very randomly. There was never any sort of indication as far as when it was going to happen. Sometimes I'd swipe down the settings and boop, it would blip off. Sometimes I'd go to like the power menu and it would just power off. I'd open an app. It was very, very sporadic. So I got in touch with OnePlus and said, hey, this is happening. I don't know why it's happening. At this point, I hadn't tried to do a fresh install. I just, had done the data transfer. And they said, okay, that's weird. We'll go ahead and send you another device. And, maybe it's a flaw in that particular hardware. And this is the backup device. I set it up the same way, curious to know if it was going to happen again. And sure enough, immediately it started happening again. So I could never get a stable powered on state out of it. When I finally wiped it and installed it fresh from zero, it was fine. Turns out they have now received some information from at least one other person complaining of the same thing. And the commonality between my situation and theirs is that they too did data transfer between a Pixel 6 Pro over. So there's something happening right now, and I'm confident that they're going to fix this in a software update, and that'll happen. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, but that's why I can't actually chip in, because I really wanted this to be like a combined review, but I could never get a stable device until like a few days ago when we finally isolated it. So that's my war story. I'm assuming that's not going to affect many people. I'm sure they're going to put out an update. At least I certainly hope that they do. But I know that they're looking into it. So something to keep in mind.
Who's going to switch from I'm being honest.
Well,
who's going to switch from a Pixel 6 Pro?
Someone.
Okay.
People
That's
do.
Fair. That's fair.
Things happen.
No, I know. They should release a patch for it. I agree with you. But I'm just thinking, in terms of ranking here in my mind.
Yeah. It might not impact a lot of people, but it's certainly something they don't want in their build of their phone. So
exactly.
Yeah. And
well,
who knows,
that
might impact other devices. I'm you know what I mean? I'm not saying that it does, but if that exists with data transfer from Pixel, they're going to want to know that it doesn't exist with other phones too. So
yeah.
Anyways.
Exactly.